It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Sober University, your next step to successful recovery, with Cheryl Adler, who says if you are going to crave anything, crave living life to the fullest. Maximize all you have and squander nothing. This program provides information to help you get your physical, mental, and spiritual house in order. And now, the host of Sober University, Cheryl Adler.
Hello, Rockland World Radio listeners. I want to introduce you to my guest, who is a very accomplished professional. He has dramatically improved lives with his expertise in the field of hypnosis. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to Bob Pargament of the Westchester Hypnosis Center, with locations in Westchester and Rockland County, New York, Fairfield County, Connecticut, and Midtown Manhattan. Welcome to the program, Bob.
Thank you, Cheryl.
My pleasure. There's so much to talk about. The phone is open for callers, and Bob welcomes your questions and comments, so please give us a call at 845-353-2910. Bob, many people have a stereotyped image of the hypnotist who entertains people on a cruise ship or at a party and gets them to squawk like a chicken or quack like a duck. Tell us what hypnotism really is and how it can help people make breakthroughs in their life.
Okay, Cheryl, that's a great place to start. Hypnosis is a very misunderstood modality. There is probably no other modality that creates this kind of confusion in people's minds. I can't think of really any others that, have a stage component to it, as does hypnosis. But it is a real phenomenon. People do get hypnotized on stage. We should be clear about that. They do so willingly. They go up on stage and they basically consent to acting out of character while in hypnosis. Unfortunately, that creates a good deal of confusion in people because it's such a dramatic manifestation of this particular process. People assume, based on watching stage hypnosis, that people are being made to do something that they wouldn't normally do, but that's not really the case. People are only consenting to the experience, and then they're willing to act out of character a little bit. The stage hypnotist is trained to find somebody who is a good subject, who's willing, who's probably more on the exhibitionistic side, who's willing to act out a little bit. But they do get hypnotized. I know other hypnotists who do this work and other hypnotists who have been on stage as well as other people, and they do in fact get hypnotized. It is true because everybody's hypnotizable. So it creates this duality of understanding. People are confused by it. And again, there's nothing that I can think of that's comparable. You asked me what it is. What is hypnosis?
Yes, tell us a little bit about what it is and how it actually relates to psychotherapy as a portal to psychotherapy and counseling. And it surely can open people up to new possibilities that they might not have ever considered before. Can you expand on that idea of how hypnosis actually helps people make breakthroughs?
Sure. Well, first, let me explain what it is.
Good.
Because there are actually multiple definitions of hypnosis. In certain ways, we can measure hypnosis. There's a certain frequency that our minds experience, a certain pattern of brain waves, mostly in the alpha or theta range. It's a state of relaxation. But one of the classic definitions of hypnosis, besides that measurable definition, is that it's a bypass of the critical factor of the mind. And what does that mean? That means that when you stop thinking consciously, when you stop analyzing, using that particular part of the mind, the rational analytical mind, another part of your mind takes over. And we experience this organically multiple times during the course of a day. Everybody does.
You mean kind of like daydreaming?
Exactly right. Daydreaming, highway hypnosis is another expression of it. Usually, people have experienced going to their regular destination. They get to that destination but don't really remember getting there. That's very, very common. The reason the mind does this organically in the form of daydreaming while we go there automatically is because it's a way essentially of cooling down the mechanism, the thought mechanism. Conscious analytical thought requires a great deal of energy. If you've ever studied for a test, as we all have, you know the experience of the fatigue you can experience from concentrating a great deal or trying to memorize. You use a lot of the body's energy to do that. Mm-hmm. It's estimated that thought consumes about 30 to 40% of our energy. So the more hard thinking you do, the more fatigued you become. And like any well-designed system, like a computer goes into sleeper or hibernate mode, or your car idles at a light, the human mind really is a very well-designed system, infinitely more sophisticated than those examples. And we have this built-in mechanism that allows us to cool down. So we daydream, or sometimes you'll find yourself staring at something just mindlessly.
To kind of relax your mind in a way.
Cool it down. Exactly right. So you save energy.
So can you describe who would be good candidates for hypnotism, and what age groups do you work with?
Well, one good candidate is Herman Cain. No, I'm just kidding. But who would be a good candidate for hypnosis? I would say really everybody's a good candidate for hypnosis. We all are capable of going into the state, and we all do, as I said, organically. We really and truly do. So everybody is hypnotizable. I've yet to find anybody who can't be hypnotized. The only possible exceptions might be somebody who has some sort of organic damage to the brain or some unique wiring that I have yet to see. But everybody's hypnotizable.
Excellent. You know, Bob, many of the listeners of this show may be struggling with dependencies on substances like alcohol and drugs, and they also may be engaging in self-harming and self-limiting habits and behaviors. Can hypnosis help them with this?
Most definitely, it can. Of course, with the desire of that individual to achieve a better outcome for themselves. I think motivation is true in all practices. You want somebody who's really wanting this change. But the reason it works in this regard is that the conscious analytical mind serves as sort of the program of the mind, the rational thinking part of our minds. That's the conscious program of the computer, so to speak. Its job is to think logically, rationally. It makes plans and distinctions. In that world, just like an Excel spreadsheet adds up numbers across and down, that part of the mind wants to have 1 and 1 equal 2 in your world, so you can make sense of your world and function properly. But the other part of the mind where habits are is in the subconscious part of the mind. And the subconscious also has long-term memory, habits, laziness, and other patterns. So these two parts often come into conflict with each other. With a cigarette smoker, for example, somebody who's addicted to tobacco would have this kind of expression. They logically, with the logical part of their mind, know that they shouldn't be smoking.
Sure. Everybody
does, but there's another part beyond the chemical issues, which is a subject unto itself. The habits come from the subconscious part of the mind. So those tend to often override the willpower, which is also in the conscious mind, which is telling you to stop this particularly self-defeating behavior. So when you're hypnotized, which feels amazingly relaxing, it's a blissful feeling, very calming, very centering, very Zen-like.
I can attest to that.
Well, I'd love to hear your testimony on that, because it's wonderful to hear from people. I mean, I'm a hypnotist, and I've certainly been hypnotized countless times, so I know the feeling. But when but I'm speaking as a hypnotist, as somebody who's been hypnotized. I'd love to hear that. But what happens in that wonderful state of deep relaxation, profoundly relaxing, the subconscious mind, that hard drive of the computer, can begin to absorb new information. It can record new feelings and resolve certain things through messages, through general relaxation, through a number of processes, some of which we don't fully understand at this point, but are becoming more and more understanding of it as we use different technologies to see how the mind works. But in that state, people who have addictive behaviors can get really wonderful results, feeling a release from that pattern, because the underlying emotional feeling from the subconscious becomes much easier for the conscious mind to deal with. So the willpower is easier to use.
Okay, so I think you may have answered my next question, but you might want to expand on it a little bit more, which is, can you share with our listeners how addictive urges can be eased or eliminated by hypnosis, and how you are able to shift an individual's beliefs about themselves toward the positive when so many people are very, very bogged down with their negative self-talk?
Great question. The fact is that everybody, I mean, as a hypnotist, I look for some empowering experience or thought or feeling within an individual, because everybody's got it. Everybody has something that they can identify where they felt that they were in control, they were productive, they were self-motivated, whatever it might be. Sometimes it could be somebody who won if somebody comes to me and they have an addictive feeling, they might have something that they can reference, like winning an award, a sports trophy when they were a kid, or something like that, for one such reference. And by tapping into that feeling in hypnosis, it gives them a sense of recalling this power at a deeper level than just asking them to recall it consciously. And so they can actually relive it to some extent. And then what I do in the way that I use hypnosis is I get them to really tap into that and expand or expound upon that, so that they really feel that this is something that they can connect to. They remember, I was able to win that race, or I got that A on this test, or I helped somebody out in my life. And by building on that positive feeling in the subconscious mind, it can override, or at least equal, and give a run for its money, those negative thoughts or feelings that are all too often present in the addicted person's mind. So I've helped people with all sorts of addictions, from drug addictions to nervous habit addictions to a lot of cigarette smoking. It's one of the top categories that we deal with in hypnosis, of course.
Which is certainly a very addictive substance.
It is, and it's really quite remarkable. I'm very open in telling my clients that I'm always amazed at how well this works for so many people. That people who are highly addicted smokers, for example, as well as with other substances, alcohol I've dealt with, and other chemical substances, but with cigarettes, which is highly addictive, it's a very repetitive pattern, as everybody knows. How I am just amazed how people come into me sometimes as 3 and 4 pack a day smokers quit in a single session.
That is remarkable. I would like to ask you, Bob, without breaking anyone's confidence, can you tell us some success stories about people who overcame their addiction, overcame fears such as crossing bridges, or any other fears that you can think of where you saw a result in pretty quickly, maybe in 1, 2, or 3 sessions, where you really saw the person come in with a very long history of a struggle with a self-defeating belief or a phobia or an addiction that you were able to help them conquer?
Sure. Well, actually, if you go to my website, westchesterhypnosis.com, you'll see a video of me, a news story that was done on me a few years back. And one of the people, they profiled 3 of my clients, one of whom was a smoker, 2-pack-a-day smoker for 53 years, who is still a non-smoker. She actually just called me last week to tell me that she's now past her 5-year mark as a non-smoker.
That's remarkable.
But there's another fellow who's in that piece, who was a coffee and he had a wine addiction as well. He was drinking 6 or 7 cups of Starbucks a day. He lived in Starbucks, and then he was so hopped up from the caffeine that he had to bring himself down with a few glasses of wine at night. And in just a couple of sessions, 1 or 2 sessions, he shifted that behavior. I know he hasn't had caffeinated coffee. We speak quite often since then, and his wine consumption, if at all, is way down. What happens? Well, the mind becomes so much more relaxed that it's then willing to absorb these suggestions, and they imprint very deeply that give you a different feeling, a different relationship to those substances. As far as phobias go, I do a lot of phobias, specifically a lot of bridge and tunnel phobias. That seems to be quite common. And again, I'm always amazed at the effect of this. People who have been morbidly afraid of going over bridges or in tunnels walk out with a different feeling. Recently, a woman who came to me with her son, she came to me first with him, who I hypnotized. I'm certified in pediatric hypnosis. She wanted to overcome this very fear after she saw the results with her son. And so I hypnotized her. She's driving through bridges and tunnels like no problem at all.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah.
So there's a great amount of empowerment, self-empowerment and confidence that comes as a result of going through the hypnotic process.
Yes.
I feel extremely relaxed just speaking with you. So I know that it does work. I hope that you're going to come back soon. In fact, I've already booked you to come back soon because on December 27th, all of you listeners out there, please hold that date for yourselves because Bob is going to come back and we're going to talk about how to not only make your New Year's resolutions, but how you're going to stick with them because so many people make them, but they really can't hold on to them. So we're going to keep you in a bit of suspense for that. What I'd like to repeat again is if you'd like more information about Bob and his wonderful hypnotic abilities, please call him at 1-800-675-7583. And you can also visit him at his website, which is www.westchesterhypnosis.com. And I would imagine there's an email address over there as well?
Sure. They can do westchesterhypnosis@gmail.com.
Okay. You want to say that one more time?
westchesterhypnosis@gmail.com. I'll spell it. Westchester is WESTCHESTER. Hypnosis, this is all put together as one word, HYPNOSIS.com.
Excellent. And all you listeners can also reach me with any questions or comments at soberuniversity.com. Before we close our show, Bob, are there any other aspects to hypnosis that you would like to share with our listeners who are going through holiday blues and some difficulties getting through? Although we're all supposed to believe this is a very happy time of year, some people are not feeling very jolly right now.
Well, I do teach techniques that I and my clients have found to be very helpful to overcome those holiday blues. There are many things that you can do, ways that you can use your thought process in a more constructive way, using actually the mechanics of your thought to achieve a different outcome. To not feed the mechanism, the predictable mechanism that brings us into a deeper, darker place sometimes, but there are ways that you can actually bypass that thought process or intercede so you don't get as down as you might otherwise. Hypnosis, again, when people are hypnotized, they feel much calmer inside, so they feel a sense of control. These negative thoughts seem to be less penetrating after hypnosis. Plus, I give specific suggestions. But without going too long into this, there are many applications of hypnosis that transcend just the kind of work that you and I have been talking about. There are medical applications to hypnosis, well documented, from studies done through major universities. It's used medically to create anesthesia, to stop bleeding, to reverse burns or create faster healing. We're just beginning to learn about this miraculous connection of the mind and the body.
Yes.
And how just spoken words while in hypnosis or some other states, but hypnosis being the one that I'm most familiar with, can actually expedite healing. And we're talking serious university research. I read an article recently in the Journal of the American Dermatological Association, the publication for dermatologists, about how hypnosis can spur hair growth.
It's remarkable. So this really connects to how powerful our mind is.
Yes.
And that you mentioned anesthesia. I'm thinking about so many people who are addicted to pain medications or pain patches can actually tap into the pharmaceutical capacity of their own brains.
Exactly right.
And you actually create the portal for that to take place.
Yes.
Excellent. I think we might be running out of time here. So we have about 2 or 3 more minutes. Are there any other thoughts that you'd like to add before I close the show?
Well, I would just say that, going full circle back to the first question, that, this is something that people are really beginning to understand now en masse. The population at large is beginning to understand that hypnosis isn't entertainment, and it's actually very, very beneficial.
It's very healing.
It's very healing, and the people who practice it that I know, I'm a member of the National Guild of Hypnotists, the country's largest organization. I believe something like 10,000 members in it. The people that I know that practice this full time as I do, there aren't that many of us. We're sort of a rare breed, but they really are dedicated healers. They really care about people, and they want the best outcome for people.
Wonderful.
They're very serious about it. They're always looking to improve upon what they do, but to get people results. And it's truly amazing in terms of these results that it provides for people. I've seen it so many times now, and I'm proud to be in this profession. It's a wonderful, wonderful profession, and to hear somebody after they've been hypnotized say this very common refrain, "Wow, that was amazing. That's the most relaxed I've ever been in my life." I hear that all the time. It's life-changing. I mean, people really find this to be that spectacular.
It surely is, and I hope that you listeners will consider contacting Bob if you have one of these challenges. I know that he'll be very happy to speak with you, and if you need an appointment, he'll surely be available in his numerous locations that we have mentioned. So I'd like to say please tune in next Tuesday at 8 o'clock when my guest will be renowned interventionist Carmine Thompson. You will be thrilled to hear what he has to say about his significant role in working with addictive people and their families. Carmen has a 90% success rate in getting people the help they need to stay alive and prevail. Bob, it is such an honor to have you here tonight. Thank you again.
It's an honor to be on your show, Cheryl. You're a fantastic therapist, and thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, and we look forward to having you coming back for New Year's resolutions on December 27th. So this is Cheryl Adler's Sober University radio show. Remember, if you're going to crave anything, crave living life. Maximize all you have and squander nothing.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.